Hi everyone, welcome to today's show. And today we're talking about business turnarounds. Steve's going to talk about sandwiches, buffering to protect your teams, and also how to manage your stress and your team stress with a mobile. Stay tuned. So this show's about business turnarounds, and I know throughout your career, you've turned around at least 6 organizations that have been losing money and they've been performing poorly. So if you take yourself back to one of those times when you were in an organization, a specific organization you can think of, where they were losing money and they weren't performing well. So my first question would be, in this moment right now, how did you know that they were losing money? And the moment you found out about that, how did you react? So what was your thought process? How did you know that you could get them out of that hole?
The answer is quite simple. It's pretty easy to tell when a business unit is in trouble, but I'll give you a very specific example. In 2014, I joined a major international aerospace company as managing director. And when I got there, the reason I was hired was because the business unit was in deep trouble. And basically, we already had the KPIs to prove this. So typically, KPIs are based on cost, quality, and schedule. And the cost side is measured in what we call EBITDA. So it's earnings before income tax, depreciation, and amortization. And so this particular business unit was losing in the order of 20% of bottom line, okay, profit, negative 20%. The on-time delivery was in the 50% range. And the quality level in manufacturing terms, we had defects of more than 10,000 defects per million. Okay, so we measure in defects per million in this industry. And so, this is in an airline industry, and we're a tier 1 supplier to Airbus and Boeing, both of which have penalties if you're late, okay, on delivery. And so the company was accruing penalties on a daily basis, because you got to realize Airbus and Boeing have airplanes sitting in factories, and the supply chains of those are so well timed that basically it's known exactly when the seats need to be there, when the galleys need to be there, when the wings need to be put on. And if something's delayed and you don't have the galley, you can't fit it in the door, okay? And so then it becomes, you've delayed the entire airplane, and then you've got, some Saudi Arabian prince is really angry because he can't get his A380 on time or whatever. So for me, it becomes very obvious because of the KPIs and because of customers complaining.
Steve, so I'm a business leader. My profit's down, say, 30%. My delivery on time's down, is at 50%. I've got all these other metrics that I measure are just way, way lower than what they should be. How do I get out of this? What is the process? If you were to transport your mind into mine as a business leader, what would you suggest I do in this moment now?
Well, Matt, this one is going to be a little bit more difficult to answer than most of mine, because this is taking, 30 years experience, 38 years of experience, and saying, okay, how do I teach somebody what to do? But bottom line is, I believe that the first step is putting metrics on key processes, okay? When you put a metric on something, for example, if you're concerned about your body weight, you weigh yourself every day, okay? So you have a metric. And when you're weighing yourself every day, you have more of a tendency that your weight's gonna go down than if you don't, okay? Because it's proven that when you put a metric or a KPI onto something, that it will start improving without doing anything, okay? Just because you're aware of it. So then the rest of it becomes, there's 2 ways to fix financial issues, okay? Matter of fact, I just released a quote today on LinkedIn about this. And one way I call it the machete approach, okay, which is cut, 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 okay, cut cost. And it's cut employees, it's cut training, it's cut, cut, cut. The other way is what I consider the more intelligent way, which is to improve your business systems, to improve your process yields, to improve your processes, implementing things like lean manufacturing and so forth. And so I'm a proponent of that more than I am machete style. And, so the first thing is we say, well, what do we have to do? We have to understand where the real root causes of the problems are, okay? And typically, delays in delivery, everything is almost always associated with a problem in the production area, okay? And the problem means that you're building something and it has a problem, it gets rejected, and you have to rebuild it again, and then that creates disharmony in the process and the production areas. And so my approach in manufacturing, the reason I've been successful managing large organizations is because I always focus on fixing problems. So when I fix problems, I don't focus on fixing finances, because finances, I believe, are a indication of what's happening in your business. What I focus on is the problem and what we call the value stream, okay? So the value stream is where all the value is added in your process. So you have a supply chain that provides materials, typically in manufacturing. You issue parts to production. You then start making parts. You know when something starts to fail in a process, whether it's step 1, 2, 3, 4. And you start identifying where these problems start occurring as early in the production process as you can. Now, in the aerospace business I was running, we had, many steps in the process. And so if I waited until, let's say, step 10 to fix a problem, when I could have fixed it in step 2, then it's a really big issue. And then things like scrap rates, all these things are very good indicators of the health of a business. So my focus has always been to fix problems, to understand real root causes of problems, and to implement, and I teach this to people in the business, is I say, if you're going to tell me, we call it root cause corrective action, okay, RCCA. Root cause corrective action means that if you implement a corrective action for a problem, that means that problem will never happen again. And this is one of the biggest problems in production areas, is people have the same problem over and over and over. And so my belief is every problem can be fixed once and for all, but you have to really focus on that and make sure that happens.
So that's a great structure, to have a system in place to focus on problems, not finances, and getting to the root cause of the issues and taking what you call RCCA, root cause corrective action. When we look at leaders, a lot of leaders, when they're losing money, when they're not performing well, they feel so under pressure. They feel under pressure from, their boss. Maybe they're running a company, they feel under pressure from the shareholders. They might feel tensions through the employees that they manage. How do you manage this stress, this pressure, and most importantly, how do you motivate teams in when there's times of stress and keep the harmony?
Interesting question, Matt. So I become a buffer, number one, between my management and the people below me, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to have, let's say, a lot of pressure being put on me and consequently put a lot of pressure on my team out of frustration, because then that becomes not so good. And the same thing, if my team is very frustrated, I don't want to complain to my management that, my team's frustrated. So I become this buffer in between. And then, there's always going to be deadlines. There's always going to be issues. And in a global market now, there's many mergers and acquisitions and things that are taking place. So it creates a lot of pressure on organizations. And so I believe that a true leader, number one, has to be a very good communicator of things and represent his team well. So I've always been a person where, if I feel something that needs to get done, then I have the ability to be able to be quite persuasive when it comes to management. Like, for example, in my last factory, we had the air conditioners were like 18 years old, and the temperature was like 40 degrees C inside the factories, and the previous managing director could never get anything approved. And so I went for the capital expenditure, we call it, budgeting. And I had pictures of people basically sweating and this and that. And I said, listen, I said, this is a very simple decision. I said, you know, we owe it to the people to give this, blah, blah, blah. And it was done. And the people got the air conditioner and everybody was happy. Work productivity improved and so on. So then and what that does is it creates, you know, much better harmony. So with the team, the people that work under me, what I want to do is I want to create a harmonious working relationship. So I focus a lot on what I call conflict avoidance and conflict management, where people, sometimes if they're peers to each other, they want to argue or maybe look better than the other. And so I use certain techniques to go in and quell those issues. I also use kind of a sandwich approach in my management technique. So a lot of people are just top down, but what I do is I do top down and bottoms up. And so it's a sandwich. And so basically I get people moving from the top down, but I also get people moving from the bottom up. And it's a lot more effective this way. And so also investing a lot in team building, and, you know, and training, and actually team building and developing harmonious relationships in the workplace. My last organization, I sent, I think it was 16 of my top management staff became NLP practitioners. That was an 8-day, you know, course. And so, but I felt that was very important because NLP is such an integral part of the psychology of the workplace. And, you know, that's why I trained the people in this, and they got certified. So yeah, and the people that work under me, making sure that the pain doesn't go from here downward and from here upward, but instead there's a buffer in between, and then balancing it all the time.
Thanks, Steve. You mentioned, sorry, about being a buffer between management and the people in the organization, and avoiding conflict avoidance and conflict management, and, you know, giving to the team, giving them team building activities to bring them together, develop them with training. One element I think is really important in tense times where it's difficult to manage staff and manage yourself, is because of stress. So when you have a lot of stress, it affects your decision making, leaders' decision making. How do you manage stress in these situations, and how do you manage your team's stress?
Well, Matt, so how do I manage my stress, first of all? And, you know, my stress, in the past, I mean, this has been a progression for me through the years. And now I'm quite good at managing my stress. It's really being able to anticipate stressors, anticipate the fact that you're getting stress so that you can start cooling down before you get too far. Because I think in stress, you know, this is what I teach a lot of my people actually that I coach, is there's a technique. What I do is I say, you know, take your phone, and this can be about stress, but it can also be about your happiness level. It can be about maybe getting angry, getting sad, whatever, any emotion. What I do is I tell people, I say, okay, set an alarm on your phone for every hour. And basically, when that alarm goes off, what you want to do is you ask yourself the question, how stressed am I on a scale of 1 to 10? And, you know, when you start the day, most people, you're at a 0 or a 1. And then as you progress throughout the day, you get this accumulation of stress. And so what I try to teach people is I said, you know, there's this threshold where you cross, and then you've gone beyond, you've gone too far. And then that's when you might get reactive, you might get violent, you might get, you know, you might start yelling and whatever it is. And so you want to know what that threshold is, and you want to put a number to it. Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, if I get to like a level 7 or 8, then I'm like, okay, people better watch out when I'm coming, because I'm not going to be a happy guy. And so what I want to do is I know what do I feel like right before I get to that level 7 or 8? And I want to be able to take action so that I can get myself down to a level 2 or a level 1 again. And so I do this quite well now because I have very good control over my thoughts. Stress is created by external events, which you interpret, okay? And you can apply any meaning you want to these events. And if you start taking things personally or whatever, sure, you can get stressed. Now, on the other side, your question about the team and their stress. So it's quite interesting because now I'm observing a whole bunch of people and I can see things. I got people coming into my office, oh, this person didn't do what they're supposed to do. This person's, blah, 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 whatever. And again, I think the basics that I teach people are this. What we want to do, because stress is created by two people usually, okay? A person in a situation or a person in a person. And what we want to do, I always teach people, this is especially powerful in conflict avoidance, is that we have a person or a situation, and we need to separate that from yourself, okay? And so what I mean by this is that, let's say I come in and say, Matt, you were supposed to have this done, yesterday and it's not done yet. Why? Well, immediately you go on the defensive, okay? And this is the starting foundation for stress in organizations. And so what I try to do is I teach the avoidance side of it, which is to say, when we have problems, we want to separate the problem from the people, okay? So that another way of saying it is, oh my God, we're going to fail as a team, or we got this issue we need to solve. I don't look at the person. I look at the problem and I'm addressing the problem. I'm like, this is a problem. And then as long as people are reasonably responsible, they're going to be like, yeah, I should have done that. Or that was my responsibility. Or, maybe we can solve it by doing something else, blah, blah, blah. But I think the root cause of the majority of stress in organizations is by putting people in a defensive position. And that can be caused by management. That can be caused by peers. It can be caused by people under them, by getting personal. Okay. And the way we separate that is we don't get personal. We focus on the issue at hand. We separate the person from the issue and we address the issue independently of the person. And then it always works if you do this way.
Thank you so much, Steve. What a valuable interview. So many nuggets. And one of the big things I picked out was focusing on the issues and not getting personal, and indeed just focusing on the problems as well and not the finances, and sorting those out. It's really lonely sometimes to be a leader, a business leader in particular. And for anyone watching this, if any of these issues touched you, whether it's conflict resolution and management, or setting the right metrics, managing your team and getting harmony in your team, really encourage you to reach out. You're not alone. People like Steve, with all of his years of experience, can help in just a call or a few calls, to really help you change your business and make you feel at ease. So thank you so much, Steve, for another fantastic interview, and I'm really looking forward to the next one.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for today. And it's been a pleasure working with such a great team with NLP coach Matt and Mastermind Melon. I'm so proud to work with people like this. And we really work hard on producing these types of videos and things, and we really appreciate you guys subscribing. Ring the bell so that next time our video comes up, you get automatically notified. Press like, share it with your friends. And also, please note down below, we've got links for myself, for my website. I got a free ebook, Learn How Your Mind Works and How to Change Your Life. And then I'll just let Matt add his in real quickly, and Kun Melon.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Steve. And, it was a pleasure to interview you today. In terms of, if you wanted to explore your own mind with probing questions, if you have a challenge, or if you want to kind of uncover some of the strengths you have in life, then feel free to reach out to me as well. The link should be below, and you can connect with me on Facebook. Thanks, Steve.